Awesome. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. My name is Julia. I'm with Software 2. Today we are, for this session, we are going to be hearing from St. Mary's University and their AppsAnywhere story. On our session today, we have Tim, Rich, and Reg from St. Mary's University. Just a few little housekeeping things. This session will be recorded, and everybody who registered for this session will be getting a copy of this recording at the end of the week for you to share with your colleagues. Also, throughout the session, please feel free to drop any questions into the questions box, and we will do our best to make sure we get your questions answered after Tim's presentation. Also, for whatever reason, if you need to send myself a chat or you'd like to chat with the audience, that option is also available in the GoToWebinar taskbar. So that's all for me. Tim, over to you.
Thanks very much, Julia, for having us this morning, or I should say this morning or this afternoon, depending on where everybody's coming from. It's just past noon here on the east coast of Canada, so I'll take a quick minute to thank Software 2 for allowing us to tell our little story about our adventure into AppsAnywhere last fall. You'll see that the description of the session actually says COVID made us do it. I think like a lot of things that have gone on in the last 14, 15 months, the pandemic has pushed a lot of technology advancements ahead. This is just another example of that. So again, as Julia mentioned, my name is Tim Gill. I'm the Assistant Director of Client Technology Services here at St. Mary's University. I also have along with me today Reg Duffy, who's one of our Windows Server admin folks, and Rich Biller, who's a desktop technologist, and he was responsible, along with a couple other of his team members, in packaging up a lot of the software to use in AppsAnywhere. So away we go. Quick agenda, folks, just to let you know what we're going to do today. I'll just some real logistical things on where and who we are, how we got where we were, our accelerated search process, our kickoff meeting, and then our crash course and the whole implementation of AppsAnywhere. So we'll just take a few minutes today to walk through what we did last fall. I think probably as the steps are concerned and the way we followed the plan, it was fine. The most impressive thing, or at least we think it's impressive, is the fact that we did it all in 6 weeks. So it can be done very quickly if you can devote some time to it. So again, there's a picture of our campus. I won't lie, I pulled this right off the university website this morning. So if you're wondering who we are, we're located on the east coast of Canada. We're nestled in the heart of Halifax and what is considered to be the south end of the city. So if you look at this picture here, out beyond is the Halifax Harbor that heads right out to the Atlantic Ocean. Our tagline for years has always been experience the world in one city block. As you can see, it's probably a couple blocks, but the tagline of one city block is good. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, we actually just rebranded the university effective last Thursday. So we're now using the tagline World Without Limits. And as we go through this presentation, you'll see that AppsAnywhere will actually help us with that tagline. We describe ourselves as a Canadian urban mid-sized university, about 7,000 full-time and part-time students, 1,500 degrees, and more than 50,000 alumni worldwide. We've got several offerings around our MBA program, which is nationally ranked, a Master's of Technology Entrepreneurship, MSCs in Computing and Data Analytics, which is a huge field now. We like to believe that we mentor and develop innovators and entrepreneurs in just about every discipline here at St. Mary's. And as you can see, we're the only Canadian university that actually offers a BA in entrepreneurship. How we got here. This story is probably not a whole lot different than a lot of you folks would have experienced over the last year and a bit. Maybe just the timing is off. The province of Nova Scotia declared a state of emergency on March 20th. It was a Friday morning, I think. I remember it well. We just all got up and we went home. That was it. We thought, we'll probably be out for 4 to 6 weeks. We'll be back. It'll be no problem. It's been 15 months now. So how do we get here? Well, time passed. April turned into May, May turned into June. All of a sudden it was the midsummer and we basically got told, well, you guys are going to have to figure out how we're going to deliver all this software to our students in the fall if it turns out we're not on campus. It was a tough one because, like a lot of things that have gone on in the last 15 months, it was a moving target, and we couldn't really decide when we were more than halfway across the lake and should we be turning back or moving forward. So again, the decision midsummer was made, we better go forward. It looks like we're off campus. So we keyed in on AppsAnywhere right away. I'd actually become aware of AppsAnywhere a couple of years previous to this at a presentation very similar to this, one called CanHITE, which is the Canadian Higher Ed IT Conference. It was actually held last week, another virtual conference. Concordia University of Montreal put it on. It was very well done. But Reg and I have been discussing AppsAnywhere for a couple of years now, just one of those things that we never seem to find the time to explore any further. One of the big things we liked about it was that it was app-based, and that's what today's students want. That's what today's students have grown up on. For years, people talked about Windows virtual desktops or just virtual desktops of some sort, but students like to be their own person these days, and they like to deal with the app stores. They like to be able to personalize their own equipment. So again, this one was very, very high on our list. Due to time constraints, normally this would be a full-blown RFP process where it could take several months before we actually awarded this. But we just didn't have the time. But we still had to really do our due diligence as far as this was concerned. So we did reach out, obviously, to Software 2 right away to start talking to them because, again, this had been on our radar for a while. We'd also investigated some other AppsAnywhere clients just really by looking at websites to see what they had done with it. Well, we had several calls with Gartner as to what their opinion of the AppsAnywhere product was, and always got positive feedback from Gartner. So we kept moving forward. We also spent some time talking to our local Microsoft reseller here. They wanted to talk a bit about Windows Virtual Desktop as opposed to AppsAnywhere, but for a variety of reasons, we chose AppsAnywhere. And we did reach out to some of our other partners in different university technology departments as well that are using AppsAnywhere now, just to get some feedback from them. So that was our accelerated search process. And when all was said and done, Software 2 and AppsAnywhere was the decision that we decided upon. So myself, Rich, Reg, and a couple other members of our desktop team that I mentioned earlier, Norm and James, who I think are probably listening here today, we had our kickoff meeting on August the 11th, 2020, and our fall term was scheduled to begin on the 6th of September, 2020. So essentially 3.5 weeks down the road. Spoke to Software 2 about this more than once, and being the ambitious vendor they are, they assured us we'd be able to get this done if we could maintain focus. So off and running we went. There were two major technical streams. Our Azure virtual machine setup that Reg is going to talk about here in a second, and then the whole software application packaging piece of it that Reg is going to give us a few notes about as well. So at this point, Reg, I'll turn it over to you, and you can tell us a few words about Azure.
Okay, so we had to get this done, and our biggest challenge at the outset was the fact that we didn't have any capacity on campus to spin up the VMs that we were going to require. We have 2 VMware clusters on campus. One is dedicated to our banner ERP, and that's one we're not allowed to touch for anything else. The other cluster was at capacity, and although we had budgeted to replace it in 2020, when the pandemic hit, we were forced to, we lost the budget, so we had to shelve that replacement. Once the decision was made forward to AppsAnywhere, there was a budget available, but there wouldn't have been any time to procure the equipment, get it installed, configured, and ready to go, given the accelerated time frame that we're working with. We did have an Azure footprint at the time. It was very limited. It was set up in 2016 when we first went to Office 365, and basically consisted of 3 disaster recovery servers, like a copy of our Active Directory, etc., So we weren't that familiar with using it. It was totally new to me because I had only started on the desktop or the server team in 2018, so that was before my time. So we had to, but it made logical sense to leverage the Azure and move forward with that. So we reached out to our Microsoft vendor that Tim mentioned, the same one, and we secured some technical assistance. And I had three and a half sessions with them, 12 to 16-hour range, and lots of emails back and forth where we provisioned the VMs that were going to be required. Next, Tim. So we worked closely with Software 2 to come up with what we were going to like the design and what VMs we were going to need. We pretty much went with the recommended configuration for redundant servers at all the critical points. When it come to the RAS and Parallels host, we worked with them to look at our student population to determine sort of what we might need in that regard, and we settled on 100 licenses. And once we had that decided, we took the recommendation to the fact that about 20 users per host, so we spun up 5 RAS parallel hosts in the environment. We were comfortable with that because we talked it over with them, and they said they could make new licenses available pretty quickly, and spinning up additional VMs if required wouldn't be a problem. So we stuck to that number, and we haven't had any capacity issues or complaints on the performance or maxed out any of that as to date. The current environment we have up in Azure, there's 16 different VMs. 3 of them are Linux. The remainder are Windows Server 2019. Again, we have redundancy for all the critical points. Basically, there's 2 database servers that aren't redundant, and a server for the AppsAnywhere analytics that is just standalone. Based on the recommendations and the structure that need to be set up for the critical points, we have 3 Azure load balancers that are handling the traffic between the AppsAnywhere gateway, the cloud paging admin servers, and the Parallels RAS admin servers. Next, Tim. Next slide.
Yep, I did it.
Yeah, I see that now. So this is where the magic happens. Once the servers were all provisioned, I used the deployment documentation provided by AppsAnywhere to get them configured, the shares in place, get them on our domain, get the antivirus software installed with the exceptions that were going to be required, and then we filled out all the information in the deployment docs, turned it over to the Software 2 team, and they came in with remote access and configured the environment for us to test and start using. Everything went pretty seamless. We had a couple hiccups along the way. Most of that was in relation to our immature Azure environment and generally networking. We had some issues with the load balancer configurations with the network security groups, and once we sort of figured out what was going on there, that one was quickly rectified. The bigger and interesting issue we had was since we were all working remotely and working on this, everything seemed to be accessible, and the AppsAnywhere portal that we have was open, and the desktop team started to work and deploy applications. And then I think it was actually Rich that was on campus and discovered that he couldn't reach the AppsAnywhere portal from on campus. Everywhere else in the world seemed to be fine, but on campus, and so that took a little bit of figuring out. Again, it wasn't related at all to Software 2 or AppsAnywhere. It was just our Azure and our SSL VPN tunnel just it just wouldn't, we were getting a loop back where server computers would reach out to the public IP, but it would try to send the traffic back through the SSL tunnel. So we had a couple of emails and conversations with our Microsoft vendor and put in some remediation that fixed that up, and to date it's accessible in all locations. Throughout this whole process, Software 2 was there and ready to help us. Everything was very efficient. I came in one morning and something wasn't working, and I put in a ticket, and it was early, and the U.S. offices may not have been closed, but still very responsive from overseas, and we had it fixed in a short amount of time. And really, I like it when magic happens, and the way they remoted in and set everything up on their own without a lot of impact to my day, and it was very smooth and very, very easy to deal with. On the next slide, Tim, there's just a quick network map of the servers on there. That's actually 15 of them. I haven't, we added the AppsAnywhere analytics server later, and I hadn't, I guess I haven't updated the document yet, but that just shows some of the flow and where the redundancy is and where the Azure load balancers are located. So that's my side of the story, and I'll let Rich take it from here and tell you about the software packaging.
Hey everybody, I'm Rich Billard from the desktop support team at St. Mary's. Here at St. Mary's, packaging was done where we have utilized a combination of all three of the methods in this slide during our very short timeline to get this project up and running in time for the beginning of fall semester 2020. There's a prepackaged option that Software 2 has. There's the Software 2 professional services that can assist you with packaging, or you can pack your own software. Next slide, please. We immediately took advantage of the AppsAnywhere Plus subscription model by adding the 50 or so free apps that are canned freeware apps. Some notable apps included are Audacity, Beast, PDF Writer, Evernote, FileZilla, GhostScript, GIMP, Google Earth Pro, Notepad++, Paint.net, and so on. They even have Pac-Man there that you could add as a little fun app. The visibility for these can be turned on or off via the admin portal and AppsAnywhere. Next slide, please. Let me see here. If you have the AppsAnywhere Plus subscription, it gives you 3,000 credit points towards packaging applications. You may want to save these points for the known hard to package applications, and Software 2 can give you assistance as to whether these are actually hard to pack applications or not. Applications with, extremely long or complex recipe instruction sets, or applications that you cannot find a recipe for on the Software 2 website, they may be a candidate to have Software 2 step in and help. Some apps are rather complex, and given our very short timeline to get this live, we opted to have Software 2 do the tough ones for us. Next slide, please. Our part on the desktop team was, for this AppsAnywhere project, was be the group that packaged the software to move to the AppsAnywhere environment. This could not have been accomplished in the time period we were given without the assistance of the Software 2 training that we had a 2-day training course that I personally highly recommend. If we didn't have that, we would never have met the timeline. Next slide, please. So our 3-member team signed up for a 2-day packaging course held by Sean at Software 2. It was awesome. The training involved creating 2 separate virtual machines, one for packaging and then a separate one for testing. The creation of these VMs were well instructed and easily accomplished using the documentation supplied by Sean at Software 2. To 2-day course gave us the hands-on learning experience to be able to package a lot of the applications that were requested to do. And again, I really recommend this course if you're going to onboard with Software 2 and need a short turnaround time. Again, the short turnaround time that we experienced would have been impossible without this course. Next slide, please. Challenges. We needed on occasion to engage Software 2 to support to assist with some of the packaging or implementation questions we had when we were creating our own packages. They were always helpful and really provided a rapid response. They were quick to get our questions answered. They're also able to do more complex software packaging, as I mentioned, in a rather timely manner. They knew our deadlines and were able to really help us accomplish this. Due to the steep learning curve of packaging, I want to focus. Sign up for the course. If they offer a course, you're going to need it. There were also some end user issues that were resolved via our help desk and desktop team explaining how the product works to the end users. Those were some of the challenges as well. And that's it, Tim. Off to you.
Perfect. Thanks, Rich. Thanks, Reg. Some technical slides there, folks. But as you can see, a lot took place in 6 weeks. So, and as Rich mentioned, some of the challenges at the end aren't necessarily challenges. Well, I guess they're challenges, not so much as defects. It's just the way the product works. Our students with the Mac OS, there is a learning curve there. They're not used to working virtual machines like you might be with Windows. The prefetch, again, it's just the way it works. It's the first time that somebody opens up one of the bigger programs. It just takes a few minutes to download certain pieces of the software that are required. And, Microsoft Access needed to run on the parallel servers. Imagine Microsoft and Apple not getting along. So now that we have this exciting new product up and running, just wanted to show some people a few things. And this is probably geared more towards some prospective clients or some people who are in the middle of doing an implementation right now. But one of the big things about using AppsAnywhere are the analytics and the information that you can gain from it. I'm not going to get too deep into the analytics. I did look at the schedule, and I believe there is a full in-depth session on that sometime this week. So if it is interesting to you, please take some time to attend it. But real quickly here, the things we can find out, just the top 10 resources this month. So for instance, here it's telling us Microsoft Access, which is, I'm sure we all know what it is, but it's used by one of our computer programming courses, and it's quite heavily used, obviously, SPSS 27. So we can look at a glance to see just exactly what the top resources are. This could change from term to term, could change in the summer, depending on the different courses that are offered. But again, this is information that we didn't have before. One of the other things we can look at are the active devices by operating system. And this one really surprised me because, as you can see there, and it's been this way almost from the start, over 60% of our students or people that are accessing AppsAnywhere are using a Mac OS. And I wouldn't have thought that going into this. I was always under the impression that it was probably about a 60-40 split, with Windows being the prominent operating system. So something new there for sure. So again, just good information that we didn't have before. One of the other things I like to look at from time to time is just the launches by country in the back end here. You can see red is where it's been launched the most, and then green is where it's been launched differently. So you can see the international makeup of our student body because they're essentially accessing AppsAnywhere from all over the world. I keep looking at Hawaii out there in the Pacific Ocean, and it looks like somebody from Hawaii is accessing our AppsAnywhere. So why anybody would want to move from Hawaii and experience a Canadian winter, I have no idea. But if they are coming back in the fall, hopefully they bring the good weather with them. future plans for AppsAnywhere here at St. Mary's. We started this, it was pushed into place because of the pandemic. There's no question, if the pandemic hadn't hit, we would probably still be talking about this right now. But the plan has always been to make a better experience for our students. And by that, we need to move this BYOD model. And this has really been the first step to it. It essentially takes all our labs on campus now, or all our classrooms on campus, I should say, and most students are carrying their own laptops with them. It turns our classrooms into labs right now because they can access the software anytime, anywhere. The analytics that we just looked at, we will be making some decisions on all the different software we have right now. I mean, we carry, I bet you, a dozen different statistical packages. Which ones are really being used? Which ones should we stop using and stop paying for? Hardware related. With this new program now, we can look at reducing our technology footprint, the public PCs that we have on campus here. Do we need that many now? Because again, moving towards BYOD, students will have their own. They won't have to be here at school to use the software. And if they are here at school, they don't need to log on to a university computer. We're going to make all our public PCs, we're going to give it a thin image where the cloud pager for AppsAnywhere is part of that image. So if they are going to use our public PCs, it's going to be the same experience as it would be if they were sitting at home on their laptop. We're going to continue to move things to the cloud. Reg mentioned earlier, other than our Active Directory environment, this was our first foray into the Azure and the cloud environment. We've got lots of projects on the go to move us there now, but this was the first one, so it was a bit of a learning curve along the way. We'll be able to tweak the Azure environment depending on licensing and that sort of thing as well. So other things that we're going to consider is probably almost relaunching, if you will, in the fall, because again, this was done out of necessity. We are expecting 2 full cohorts back here in the fall, and it's really going to be their first time on campus. So just from a marketing side of things or a communication side of things, we're going to want to make sure people are aware that it is available, hopefully get some of the faculty championing the product. We're going to be very interested in the usage patterns when they get back, because even though this does make things easier for people at home, when the campus does reopen, will the usage patterns change? So the analytics, again, all the information you can get out of there will be important. With the reduction of the hardware and our technology refresh program, it just feeds right into some of the sustainability initiatives we have on campus here as well. And again, with regards to the server, just trying to right size our environment in Azure moving forward. So in summary, I mentioned 6 weeks when we first started. Don't try to do it in 6 weeks. We actually made it available to the students. I was checking my email yesterday, and it became available to our students on the 21st of September. You'll remember our kickoff meeting was August the 11th. So we had a few weeks as the term started, where we had to do a little stick handling, a little shuffling. But this was the first day that we had this up and people could go and access it. We had probably 80% of our offering up at that time. We're still, I don't want to say struggling, but there were still a few of the larger programs that we were trying to get up and running properly. Why don't you want to do it in 6 weeks? Traditional project manager was really abandoned, I won't lie to you. So if there are any project managers listening, my apologies to you. But because of that, we did miss a lot of things. We really just turned it on and let people go. There wasn't really no proper communication, the handover to operations. It all took a back seat simply because we were under the gun and we were trying to get this done. And the last thing I'll say, and it's not a paid advertisement, we can't say enough about the team at Software 2, right from Karen Grover, who was our original contact. Sean Davis has been mentioned in here with all the technical help. The 2 Phils were in here several times on analytics and so forth. We've got Julia and of course Shelley, who is their customer success manager right now. And I do feel that it really was a true partnership that was formed between Software 2 and St. Mary's University. And with that, we come to the end of our presentation. So thanks very much for your time, as I mentioned earlier. And if we do have some questions, Julia, fire away.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tim and Rich and Reg. That was great. So yeah, everybody, please, if you have any questions for Tim and his team, please drop those in the question box. But it looks like we have a few already. Let's see. Overall, are you happy with the performance and the monthly costs of AppsAnywhere running in Azure?
Well, everything costs money, but yes, we are. I mean, we look at this as an investment, not a cost. And one of the keys that we will have is the money we're spending on AppsAnywhere now. We are going to be able to gain back by reducing the hardware footprint around campus. It just opens up all kinds of opportunities for us to get rid of some of the PCs that we have on campus here, and it would be a considerable cost. And again, investment in the fact that it's all about the student experience here. Again, they don't have to be on campus to log into a PC that's owned by the university. They can do all this stuff at home, at their leisure, wherever they want to be. So I don't think we look at it as a cost. I think we look at it more as an investment.
I would say, Tim, just a little plug for the Azure VM reservations that we finally got sorted out. That took a little while. That made a big difference.
Yeah, for sure. Again, a learning curve for Reg and I as we embarked on this, but one of the things you can do is to reserve the different VM instances. And of course, if you reserve them, you tend to control your costs a little better. So we did reserve them for 3 years back in August.
Sure. This wasn't a question, but I did notice this. St. Mary's doing a little rebranding. So coming from the marketing side, I want to compliment your team on that.
Well, thanks very much for that. I hope that our external affairs folks don't see the slides I used today, because unfortunately, the branding was launched literally Thursday of last week, so 3 days ago. And so there are all new templates. So if we do speak again sometimes, Julia, we'll have a new updated brand for you. So
I love it. Let's see here. Do you have GPU enabled workloads in Azure? Are they shared desktop environments or individual user sessions?
We don't have anything GPU enabled yet. That is one of the things that we'll have to continue to tweak, because it's something we ran up against with running ArcGIS. We just ran out of time to get that done. So we just let them continue. We gave them remote access to the desktops that were in existence. So that's something we have to get going.
So as I mentioned, we'll be tweaking the environments moving forward. There were a couple programs, as Rez mentioned, so with some video cards, I think that we need to tweak as well. So,
great. Let's see here. Someone asked, what is the minimum connection speed supported, especially from home?
Well, that's a good question. Reg, I'm not sure we even know the answer to that one.
No, I'd say that's more of a technical one for software too, but I can say this, like I don't think we had, outside of the regular complaints that Rich mentioned with saving files and stuff like that, performance-wise, I don't think we've had a lot of feedback, and we're in East Coast Canada, and there's a lot of rural areas that have poor internet connections, and I think with the cloud paging player, I think it stands up to its performance, what it claims. We were worried about that, but I don't recall a single complaint.
Yeah, I would say that we, although we took that in consideration, it's not necessarily an AppsAnywhere issue. If you're living in rural Nova Scotia and your internet connection is not good, you're going to have a bad experience, unfortunately. So that was definitely a concern for the university when we moved off campus. AppsAnywhere would just be one of the things we'd have to take into account there.
Let's see. Okay, we have another one that just came in. Did you have any pressure from Microsoft to move from RDP to WVD?
We didn't speak to Microsoft a whole lot. We did have, as I mentioned, a conversation with our reseller here locally. We talked about Windows Virtual Desktop. We haven't used remote desktop connections here at the university a whole lot. We've definitely gone that route now. We've set up our VPN so that people can remote in through VPN now. The feedback we got about Windows Virtual Desktop, and I want to say this was from Gartner, but I wouldn't swear to it, a fairly new product, Windows Virtual Desktop, and that it was a real beast to administer in the background. So as such, we stayed away from it. And we're getting the better feedback on AppsAnywhere. I'm not going to say that that's the case, but that's what we were told.
Okay. Let's see. It looks like that's...
It wasn't easy to do that because we are a full Microsoft 365 shop as well. So.
Okay. Gotcha. Let's see here. Those are all the questions that I have. Anybody else? No. Give everyone a couple more seconds. Well, if anyone else does have any further questions, they can always reach out to you guys, or they can reach out to Software 2. But with that, I want to thank you, Tim, and your team for presenting today. This was great. For our audience, everyone, just a reminder that all of these sessions, again, they were recorded, and for the rest of the week, they will all be recorded. And you will get a link to the on-demand sessions at the end of the week once Summit 21 has come to an end. Again, if you have any follow-up questions, you can reach out to info@software2.com, or you can reach out to Shelley Volpe, or even myself. Thank you, Tim, so much.
All right, thanks again, everybody.
Bye, everyone. Have a great day.
Bye now.